Welcome to the Beyond Sugar Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Dame, holistic nutrition coach and speaker. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode here on the Beyond Sugar Freedom podcast. I'm being joined by a very special guest today. I'm so excited to introduce all of you to Tara Garrison, who is here to deep dive with us into all things muscle and protein and metabolic health. And I know we're just going to have a fantastic conversation. So welcome to the show, Tara.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's going to be fun.
Yes. Who knows what we're going to talk about? I love it. I love people like you who are willing to just flow with this conversation. I have no idea where we're going today, but I know it's going to be great. And before we dive in, I want to share a little backstory for those who don't know who Tara is. Tara is the founder of Higher, a high-performance health and life coaching company that includes training, nutrition, biohacking, and mindset coaching. She has helped many celebrities, professional athletes, and top executives optimize their health. Tara is also the author of Short-Term Keto, in which she teaches how to do keto, not forever, to optimize metabolism, brain power, athletic performance, and physique. She is also the host of the Inside Out Health podcast, in which she interviews world-class health and mindset experts from all over the world, like myself. I've been a guest on the show, and it was an incredible conversation we had. She is also the host of Higher Retreats, unique transformation experiences held in energy vortex locations around the planet, because she believes that Mother Nature is her greatest co-facilitator of transformation and healing. She's also certified through the National Academy of Sports Medicine, International College of Applied Nutrition and Strength, is a certified functional strength coach, certified holistic health coach, certified neurotyping coach, and a metabolic analysis practitioner. So without a shadow of a doubt, you've got a lot of knowledge here to share with us today, Tara. So thank you for coming on to the show. We're really excited to have you here.
Thanks. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah. So let's start. Yeah, let's do it. I love starting off the shows for everyone. I know I read a little bit about your backstory, but we want to hear it from you. You know, what really got you into doing this work? I know we all have a story, you know, with our health or our journeys into obviously all of the amazing health and healing and areas that you're supporting people. So what's your story?
When I started weightlifting, that was what I call my accidental personal awakening. That's what it led to. Getting serious about resistance training, lifting weights, was the gateway to changing my entire life. So, you know, I went to college to be a Spanish teacher. I speak Spanish. I love Spanish. Was totally planning on being a high school Spanish teacher after my kids were older. I was staying home with them. And when I started lifting weights, it was such a catalyst for changing my entire life that I was like, I have to help people understand how powerful this is. Like, I can't imagine doing anything more fulfilling with my life, especially for women. It didn't just, I completely transformed my physique, but it was so much more than that. The way my brain started operating, my inner strength completely changed. I started to ask questions and have the strength to really follow through with those for myself. I got out of a religion I needed to get out of. I got out of a marriage I needed to get out of. I became an entrepreneur. I started a business. Like, my whole life trajectory completely changed. And the turning point was when I started lifting weights. I had always been active. I was a marathon runner before that for a very long time. And it wasn't the same for me as when I started lifting weights and, of course, obviously changing my nutrition in order to support muscle growth. So that led to a lot healthier eating that I wasn't doing when I was marathon running. I was kind of eating healthy, but it wasn't a huge transformation. If you want to lean out and build muscle, you're going to change your nutrition quite a bit too. So the combo of those two things was profound. And since then, I've become a mindset coach and I've got deeper into health optimization and all of that. And it brings me so much joy and so much fulfillment to be able to share with others the things that have completely changed my life. So that's how I got here.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Okay, so the question from that then is, what got you into weightlifting? You know, what was it that you needed to change, or where you were at in your life that you were like, I'm going to start getting serious about weightlifting?
It was a combo of two things. One of them was circumstance and one of them was trauma. And I share that openly, and you'll see why. So the first reason was I was the typical mom with little kids at home that was putting them in the daycares at the gym and doing that full bit, going to workout classes, running, right? That was kind of my life. And I got sick of how much time that was eating up in my day. And, I felt like half the day was spent waiting for that 10 o'clock class. I'm kind of grubbing around in the morning, drop my kids off. By the time I get them out, it's almost lunchtime. I'm like, half of our day is being dedicated to this workout class, It doesn't seem very efficient. And so I decided to quit that fancy gym with the daycare, and I joined this little tiny gym down the street. It was $10 a month. And the only time that was feasible for me to really do that was at night. And so I would put my kids to bed and I would go to the gym, which I don't recommend at all for, circadian rhythm and health optimization at this point. But hey, I did do my entire health transformation, the big chunk of it, doing that. It was what I could do at the time. And so part of it was that, circumstance, because that little gym, they didn't have classes. All they had was weights and some treadmills and ellipticals and stuff, And so it was like, if I'm going to use anything in here besides these cardio machines, I'm going to have to learn to lift weights. And so that became like a hobby. I really turned it into a hobby. I started reading bodybuilding forums and geeking out on technique. And, I didn't even know what any weightlifting exercises were called at the time. I would see people doing deadlifts and like, why are they doing that? And like, what is that even called? Like, that's where I started, and then the trauma aspect of it was I had issues in my marriage that at the time I had done no personal growth work, nothing, no therapy, which I desperately needed from childhood traumas and all this stuff. And what was going on in my marriage at the time triggered all of these unhealed wounds from childhood that I didn't know were all in there. And so I developed this belief system that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't attractive enough for my husband. And that's why this all happened. Even though cognitively I like sort of knew that was BS, emotionally, I did not know it was BS. Yeah. I was not there. And so that led me to also like have this extra drive from a place of lack and not good enough, which I share that because now I'm way past that, right? I'm years down the road of tremendous amounts of healing and personal work. And I share that because I find that when you have how people talk about the why, you can have a really like toxic why that really drives you from that place. And you can quote unquote get results from that place of not good enough and proving and all of that. And I was there, and I'm grateful that I walked that road because it gives me so much insight into the psychology underneath that. And then I've been through my healing journey now. And now when you're starting to heal from that, you wonder, am I going to let this all go? Like maybe I was only doing all this fitness stuff to be good enough. And when I feel good enough and love myself, am I going to let it all go? And no, not at all. Now it's coming from a place of like, of course I want this for myself. Of course I want to feel good. I'm having fun in there. It's like the funnest part of my day, And so it's cool. I share that because it's given me so much insight in terms of, you can drive to quote unquote success from an unhealthy place. And when I was there, I was still felt that way. I still felt not good enough. I still needed validation. I was running from fear. It was like, I have to keep this to be lovable and safe and accepted, and I've lived that. And then after doing deep, deep work, now it's like same actions, completely different energy. Well, a little bit different actions because I'm not as obsessive now as I was in as ease now, but I'm still doing the things. I'm still eating healthy. I'm still lifting. I'm still showing up. It's even better now. I'm prioritizing sleep. I have a much healthier relationship with food and when I need rest and recovery. So that's why I like to share that because I'm definitely not the only person who's been down that road. So I like to kind of open up those types of conversations to say, hey, there's also a way that you can quote unquote achieve success from a place of love and wanting what's best for yourself, even if you started in the other place.
Yeah. Wow, Tara, that's so powerful. And you are in the right place to have these conversations and to open up about this. I'm constantly talking about my traumas and inviting people to connect at this human level, understanding that especially as women, we all have relatively similar wounding with a different flavor, right? And, I really appreciate your vulnerability and bringing that forward because I know for a fact there are a lot of women listening, a lot of my listeners that follow the show that can relate to that exact thing of not feeling like we're enough, not feeling like we're worthy, not not feeling lovable, and having that really come out in relationships, outside of our childhood, right? And for many of my listeners, I know that pattern often turns into binge eating, right? Turns into coping and escaping and numbing out with, well, I'm miserable, I'm worthless, I'm just going to eat and soothe and numb myself. And I think it's really cool and really inspiring that there was something in you that knew, I want to actually use that as fuel to get my body in shape, right? And maybe in the beginning that was maybe driven from a different place of need or desire to get what you wanted, but it actually turned into something healthy, right? Exercise can be looked at as something healthy, perhaps until it becomes too obsessive, and then it can be another addiction and it can cause maybe harm. But it sounds like for you, that was a really big catalyst. And I think that's really beautiful. I just wanted to pull that out because there is that dichotomy. There's a lot of my listeners who are going in the other direction. And that was me as well. Those childhood wounds, for me, was more of a self-soothing, not look after my body, not exercise kind of drive. And to just turn that around, I think is really powerful. So anybody listening to this, right, maybe using those not so healthy beliefs to use that as fuel is so so encouraging. And then of course the healing that you've done, and now knowing that you're worthy, that you're loved, and that's why you want to look after your body. That's why you want to now, the inspiration is different. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So let's talk about muscle then, because this is a conversation we haven't had too much about on the podcast. And I'm actually going to bear it all here because this is an area that I'm not very good at. That's the one area of my fitness regime that I suck at. I don't like the gym. I don't like doing a lot of muscle build, but man, can I run and do yoga and all those things. So this is definitely an area that I'm continuing to need to grow and learn, especially the more I learn about blood sugar regulation and aging. And I mean, it's obviously important. So for those who maybe aren't familiar or aware, maybe we can start by, why is building muscle so important for our health now, and also possibly in the future? And perhaps you could share a little bit about how muscle directly relates to our blood sugar and even possibly our cravings for sugar.
First, I want to comment on what you said about not liking it, right? And I just want to say, for any women listening who feel that way, you're not going to like it at first. I used to hate lifting weights. Back when I was married, and occasionally my husband would be like, "Come lift weights for me." I was the biggest stink face. I thought, if I'm not running and getting my heart rate super jacked up, then I'm not really working out. I have to sit here and rest. This is so boring. I'm not sweating enough, and I didn't have a strong neurological connection to my muscles. I'm I can't even feel anything happening. This feels pointless. All of those things are really normal when you're first beginning. And so I just want to put that out there for anybody listening, is that's how it's going to feel. You're not good at it. You don't have a strong neurological connection. Your ego is going to take a blow because you don't know what you're doing, all of that. But if you will push through that first initial hump, and once you start getting that neurological connection to your muscles and you start actually feeling what's happening inside your body, much like yoga, I'm a huge fan of yoga. It's a similar thing of oh, wow, it's super connectedness to your body, but it takes a little bit to get there. It's kind of like somebody who first time goes to a yoga class. You're oh my gosh, all these people can do stand on their head and it's so intimidating. It's the same way with the gym. So it is a worthwhile endeavor. To answer the rest of your question, it's a worthwhile endeavor. I think that lifting weights is one of the most powerful, quote unquote, biohacks that we have available to us in our modern lifestyles now, because really most of us, we are not being required to lift heavy things or be pushed to these maximal loads, these maximal capacities of our body in our daily lives. If I didn't go to the gym, I would almost never do that. I occasionally maybe moving a heavy table once in a blue moon. But when we don't use a capacity that our body has, it slowly becomes weaker and weaker and weaker, right? And yeah, you can still build muscle without lifting weights, a little, but it's a much more advantageous way to do that. And it's available to us every single day, instead of this really random haphazard thing, So let's get into it a little bit. The first benefit that we get from lifting weights in terms of everything. This one, growth hormone. Let's talk about growth hormone. So growth hormone is what I call the magic pill. People want like fat burners and stuff. You want a fat burner, you want a magic pill for body composition. It's growth hormone release, and you can produce it yourself through lifting weights. So growth hormone, yes, from a body composition perspective, helps you build muscle and shed body fat. And it also helps you regenerate your entire body, right? So if you want this, if you want your body to be able to regenerate, especially as we're aging at a much more productive rate, lift weights, right? And then on top of that, I have to add to growth hormone, you got to sleep if you want this to happen. So sometimes we have people who, they're in that chronic go, 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 and they're trying to lift weights and then just go, 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 super hyper stress. And then they're scrolling their phone till 1 a.m. and they're trying to get up at 5 and like, can't do that. Most of your growth hormone is released while you are sleeping, and it is released during slow wave sleep, deep sleep. In fact, about 70% of your growth hormone is released in slow wave deep sleep. And you know how you get more slow wave deep sleep? You give yourself more time to sleep. And that usually involves going to bed earlier. So I have to pair those two things together because, yeah, you will get a growth hormone boost in response to resistance training, even when you're awake. But I just want to highlight the quantity, 70% during slow wave deep sleep. So like, I almost have gotten to the point with sleep that I'm like, if you want to optimize your health, address sleep first. And for most people, the biggest issue is they're not going to bed early enough. They're sacrificing this thing that could make their entire lives better mental health, better recovery, better energy, better athletic performance, easier to maintain a healthy body composition, all of it, longevity, regeneration, and repair of your body. They're trading that for scrolling their phone or rabbit holing about something stupid or just watching Netflix. You think of the investment of time that, 8:30, 9, 10, that's a poor investment of your time to be scrolling and watching TV and all that stuff. If you can get out of that pattern, which it's going to take a little work, and just be like, nope, I'm going to read a book. I'm going to repattern myself just like a little baby. I'm going to sleep. It's like sleep training yourself like a child. That's what it feels like. A lot of adults need to sleep train themselves like a baby. And if you can get there, your whole life will get exponentially better. You get up earlier, you can start meditating, have a slow morning, like all of that stuff, So anyway, I have to pair that with this growth hormone boost that we get from training because it's such an important part of it is also sleep. Okay. Insulin sensitivity, which obviously isn't not going to be a, sometimes people are like, what's that? But probably these podcast listeners, you guys probably have heard of that before.
Yeah.
So yes, lifting weights helps improve insulin sensitivity. That's in our world today with food abundance and you can eat whenever you want and all these processed foods and all this stuff. Like we need every boost we can possibly get to stay more insulin sensitive, and lifting weights improves that. A lot of exercise improves that. It's not just lifting weights, but lifting weights is a big hitter on that. And also in terms of blood sugar, you kind of mentioned, obviously we want to talk about that on this show, is when you lift weights, you activate in your muscles your GLUT4 transporter. So you actually can uptake glucose out of your bloodstream. You become more without insulin. These transporters uptake glucose from your bloodstream that get really activated when you lift weights without even requiring insulin. So, I mean, it's like a double whammy on blood sugar. It's really, really helpful for that. And then the last thing I have to say on blood sugar with lifting weights is I like to call my muscles my carb sponges. Okay. So or carb absorbers. So where is sugar, glucose, like where is it stored in the body? We all know, or a lot of us know, it's stored in your liver and in your muscles or your body fat. Okay. So if you have bigger muscles, you have bigger storage tanks for carbs. So if you eat a little, let's say I just crushed a workout. I just hit my back hard. It felt so good. I was like in it today, And so let's say I did that. I do intermittent fast. I'm not saying everyone should, but I do. So I last ate dinner and then I slept all night and then I woke up and then I went and trained back. That's for me, that works well. I guarantee, and I walked for an hour uphill on the treadmill as part of one of my workflows. So I obviously made some room in my carb sponges, right? I'm pretty fasted. I still haven't eaten because I just didn't have time before I jumped on here. So I have some room now, right? And then because my muscles are bigger, if I go eat some carbs after this, I just have more storage tank area in my muscles than someone who doesn't have as much muscle. So the less muscle you have, the smaller your storage tanks are, the more likely you're going to cap out on your liver and your muscles storage room, and any extra carbohydrate is going to be more likely to go towards body fat. It's just how it works. And so it does make it, I used to be really not really overweight. I don't know my body fat, but I would assume I was like in the upper 30s for sure of body fat. And it was always, ever since third grade, it was hard for me I got chubby starting third grade. Weight was always an issue for me my whole life. Or, before I got in shape, it was just like I would try and give up and try and give up. And I'm like, can't do this. I have gone from that person to like, I don't say this in like a weird braggy way. I'm trying to like let people know, like, it feels like it has become almost impossible for me to get fat now. Like I'm like, dude, I'm eating a lot of carbs and I'm eating whatever I want during the day. Like I don't feel like I'm really trying to be lean, and I'm staying lean. And for me, I think, look, I have a lot of muscle, a lot more than probably most women. And I think that's a huge part of it, is because I have these bigger storage tanks for it to go into, plus intermittent fasting. Plus, I mean, I eat pretty healthy, but I'm not a perfectionist. I'm not limiting carbohydrates. I'm not doing any of that. But I think the combo of sleeping, I go to bed early, sleeping, lifting weights, walking, and intermittent fasting has made it like feel that way. Has made it feel like I'm like, I don't even think I could get fat now if I tried. That's how it feels. And I'm saying that as a message of hope for women. That's what lifting weights started for me, as somebody who has always struggled with my weight my entire life, So I share that like to say, hey, sisters, lift some weights. It will make the whole thing. It will start this amazing cascade where it just gets easier and easier and easier to not gain body fat. So yeah, there's more, but I'll let you interject if you'd like.
Amazing.
In terms of benefit.
So helpful. I love the carb sponges. I'm going to use that. That's so good. And I'm just thinking again of my audience here. I know so many of the women that I work with are like, I want a magic pill. Like I want to eat carbs and I want to be able to eat sugar, but not have it like ruin my health and not let it lead to a slippery slope. So there almost is this magic pill and like build muscle. Right. And it's going to benefit not just your blood sugar, but your mental health and your sleep and your ability to age and not fall over and break your hips, like all the stuff. Right. And I think that's a really, really beautiful reminder for everybody.
Can I share a few more physiological benefits?
Please. Yes.
Okay. So regulating your hormones, right? So this is all research backed. Okay. It's like my list of like why you should lift weights. Lifting weights helps you regulate your testosterone and estrogen. So that's super important for us as women. So there's that one. And then there's impacts on your gut microbiome. So your mood is heavily associated with your gut microbiome. Your metabolism is heavily associated with your gut microbiome. And now we have this research showing that lifting weights and all exercise also, just have to add, helps improve the health of your gut microbiome. Next, anandamide, so an endocannabinoid. This is a little bit newer in the health world. Don Moxley is an amazing resource on this, by the way. If you want to have him on your podcast and connect, he's like this OG,
please.
Like the first strength. What is it like? What did he teach at some college in Ohio? He's like an OG in strength coaching. Okay, he's a professor and has worked with tons of athletes, and he's gotten really big. He's like, this should be like lesson number 1 in chapter 1 in exercise physiology, is talking about the endocannabinoid system. So when you lift weights and other forms of exercise too, okay, but you activate anandamide, and they're calling anandamide the bliss molecule. So they're now starting to believe that, we do get boosts in dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, all of these neurotransmitters, and GABA too. All of these neurotransmitters that help us feel good, feel happy, be able to regulate our emotions, and also like the brakes on our brain so we're not overthinking, we're not spiraling. So all of those get boosted, but also anandamide, it enhances your brain capacity and memory. It helps regulate appetite. It helps improve sleep quality. So yeah, that like whole runner's high or feeling kind of high, part of that is anandamide. It literally is a cannabinoid, like cannabis, that we make in our own bodies, and it is heavily increased through exercise. So throwing that one out there, not to mention all those other awesome neurotransmitter boosts that we get. And this is why we're seeing so much research come out now about exercise for depression. It's like when you boost your dopamine, your serotonin, your GABA, your norepinephrine, your anandamide, all of these chemicals, you're going to feel good, And the biggest thing is being able to regulate your emotions. It helps you with that so much. And the last thing I have to add on this is lifting weights specifically. If you want to get really good at mastering your own stress response, which is huge for being happy in life, lift weights, because when it starts getting insane and you're like, oh my gosh, now obviously, like, don't hurt yourself. I'm talking like you're good, you got your form down, everything, but you are like, ooh, like red alerts, like this is hard. And you learn how to breathe through that, and you see that you're capable of that. It really changes your relationship with stress. You have a track record with yourself of like, I can handle this. It's kind of like cold showers and ice baths. I love those for that same reason the most. Is your relationship with your own stress response changes. And so I love that about lifting weights. And so I'll just cap this off. I just posted this on social media this morning, but I'll cap this whole thing off by saying, when you are stronger, this is a huge benefit for anyone who lifts weights. When you get stronger, physically stronger, the demands of everyday life become easier. And that right there, that experience for me was what caused me to start as a personal trainer, because I was going about my business. I was still a stay-at-home mom, and I'm cleaning. And I noticed I was like skipping 3 steps of stairs at a time and just like, I was like, oh my gosh, I have so much energy. I feel so good. I feel so like light on my feet and energetic and strong, and like, wow, like to feel that as somebody who had always been overweight her entire life, and like maybe having short spurts of being a little less overweight and then going back into it and all of that mess, like to experience that. I was like, life is so easy now. I can handle anything, is how I started to feel. That is a benefit that I want everyone to know what that feels like. And you can, and lifting weights is a huge help in that. So that's my,
Wow.
spiel.
The infomercial.
On lifting weights.
Yeah, no, but like, I giggle at that, but that is so powerful, Tara. Just everything you shared, goes hand in hand with what I know a lot of my clients and listeners are really like wanting out of life, right? Wanting to jump up 3 stairs and be 60 and still be able to do that. As I was listening to you share all of that, I couldn't help, bringing my own sort of lens of somatic healing and trauma healing and the somatic therapy that I'm kind of dabbling in. And as you're talking about the stress response and you're talking about a lot of these things, it's actually our nervous system that is retraining and learning how to actually feel safe and actually cope in times of stress, whether it's a cold bath, right? Or intense exercise. And also when we actually look into the tools of, say, somatic therapy or somatic coaching, one of the biggest tools is movement, and is actually for certain emotions like anger, rage, shame, and guilt. These are actually really stored in our muscles.
Yes.
So when we look to actually release the charge and the energetic emotional trauma or emotion that's stored there, we need to actually tax our muscles. I've done a lot of exercises with my therapist where I'm like squeezing my fists, or I'm actually like punching pillows, right? And I think this is a whole nother tangent, but there's also this big conversation to be had about not being allowed to feel angry as women. And if anyone listening is really struggling with that or doesn't know how to release some of those big, like intense emotions, then enter weightlifting. Like you just said that, right? Like hit a punching bag, like get the weights out, like tax those muscles so that you can actually move that stuck emotional energy and trauma that's actually stored in our muscles.
Now, I would love to hit on this. So nervous system. If anybody listening has data to support this and they'd like to send it my way, please find me on like Instagram, probably is the easiest way to DM me. Like I would love to see if you've got something on this, but I just personally have been on this When you start to have these awarenesses that come in and you're like, no, something's here. And you're kind of looking for science to support it, but you're experiencing it so strongly. You're like, no, there's something here. That has been for me, the impact of engaging your nervous system. I feel personally that most of the benefit that I am getting from resistance training is lighting up my nervous system. So hear me out. I like to question myself. I like to question my own belief systems all the time, right? Like when I feel like this is the best way, I like to like do something completely opposite to just you know what I mean? I don't like to get dogmatic about stuff, right? And so I have taken extended breaks from weightlifting since getting really fit and, getting educated and being a trainer and all these things. And one time I took a 4-month break from weightlifting just by choice. And all I did was hike and do yoga and walk, right? Like just a lot of gentle, a lot of yin yoga, some of the harder yoga classes, but it was just yoga and walking. And felt that out that's a pretty extended amount of time, 4 months, right? It got to the point where I'm like, I wonder if I'll ever lift weights again. I was really letting go and just exploring that. And then the intuition kind of came in and I was like, okay, I'm not feeling the desire to go back to the gym. Let's try it out. And as I got back into resistance training, I was just like, holy cow, no, this is better. I feel so much better. I feel alive. I feel like every cell in my body is just vibrating with aliveness, and I was having so much fun in there. And in terms of the, anger and, I live in an area of the Big Island of Hawaii where there are a lot of yogis, okay? It's like huge spiritual community out here. And most of them are not fans of lifting weights, they're almost all of them kind of got here through the yogi circuit, right? And so when I get in these conversations sometimes with people who are in that mindset, like they'll say things to me like totally kindly, but they'll be like, oh yeah, it's probably really good to like work out anger and aggression. And when they say that, I'm like, no, that's not how I feel at all. Like, I mean, if you need to do that and want to do that, great. But when I'm in there, it feels like love. It feels like play. Like I feel like a dog with my tongue hanging out because I'm like, when the dog is super excited because they're chasing the ball and they're playing catch and they're having so much fun. Like that's how I feel in there. Like I might be like, oh, and have the look of disgust on my face because that one lift was like so hard. But internally, I still feel like that dog with their tongue hanging out of the side of their mouth because they're just having so much fun, And so for me, I do feel like when I go into the gym and maybe I'm just doing like band work to juxtapose this, okay? Like I'm not really lighting up my nervous system by going like not necessarily heavy, but even if it's a 15-pound dumbbell and I'm doing bicep curls, I'm squeezing, I'm like taking it to failure. I'm starting to shake. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like feeling it, like that squeezing feeling of like my nervous system is engaged here. There is a huge difference if I just do like banded work, I'm doing like booty work or like stuff like that. I start to feel like how I did when I was just doing like yoga and walking for a long time. I don't feel that sense of aliveness, like every cell in my body is just vibrating at full tilt as when I engage my nervous system in there. So for me personally, lifting weights has become I know we do have some research that lifting weights does increase the health of your nervous system, but it's different than that. For me, it's on the daily. I feel insanely more alive, like in every cell of my body when I lift weights and engage my nervous system by making it hard, right? So just throwing that out there. It's lifting weights doesn't always have to feel like what's the word, like mean or anger or like stuff like that. It can also feel like play and exploring and like, good job, body. And oh, wait, that's hurting when I do that. Okay. Yeah, I hear you. I'll go get a massage and like get that worked on. Like I'm not going to push you that far. Okay, cool. But you're feeling good. Okay. Let's see what you can do. I believe in you. I know you got this. Let's go. Wow. You're so strong. Like it can be that relationship with it as well. So just want to share all of that.
Yeah. I love that because it's what comes up as the word punishment. a lot of people might use it
Yeah.
as the word punishment, right? Like punishing our bodies for not eating good last night. I know a lot of people use exercise for that, right? Versus, like you said, this is actually a celebration of what your body can do. And maybe when you get started, I definitely can't lift as heavy as you because I haven't been weight training as much as you, right? And that's okay. Like just trusting where your body's at. But I love that outlook of like, this can actually be play, and it can be like a celebration of the ability of our body to like
and
push
deep
ourselves.
connection. Like I was working lats today. Like I used to not even know what a lat was, way back then, like a lat. And my connection to my lats is so strong. It's like I have my eyes closed and it's like I can feel like every inch of my lat. Like I'm just connecting with it. And I'm like, wow, good job. Oh, so it can be a deep sense of connection with your body that really improves your relationship with your body as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really important message because I know a lot of my listeners, that's an area that they struggle, right? It's tuning into the
Yeah.
cues of the body and the energies in the body and even the physical sensations. So the fact that you can like isolate your lat muscle and all the other muscles, right, is definitely a huge benefit to reconnecting with the body and listening to its messages. Okay, so you've talked a lot about lifting weights. I'm curious, like, what are the best ways to build muscle and keep it on? Is it just lifting weights? Are there other ways to build muscle and keep it on? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's other ways to build muscle. It's really interesting living here on the Big Island because of Hawaii, because there's not as many people who are into lifting weights. I mean, the gym I go to, there are, but it's kind of like a very small subset of the community. Most of the community here, it's not like a normal thing. I used to live in Utah and it's pretty big there, lifting weights. So it wouldn't be like that weird to see a woman with muscle like me around Utah, but here it's weird. Okay. And so people will ask me, and it's really interesting. Their questions will be, oh, do you surf? So they'll see me with a lot of muscle on my arms. They're like, oh, do you surf? I'm like, I wish I was that cool. No, I lift weights. And they're like, oh, and I look at these surfers, and speaking of lats, holy smokes. I mean, their upper bodies are insane. Their shoulders, their lats, like they look like bodybuilders, at least on their upper bodies, and I've asked some of them and they're like, no, yeah, it's just from surfing, I'm like, wow, okay. So you can, there's lots of ways you can build muscle as long as you challenge your muscles to a point that they need to recover from that. They get the memo, which is a lot of this is nervous system. Like, hey, we're going to need to send more neurons there so you get stronger, or we're going to need to repair a little bit of muscle damage. Either way, like you can get stronger as long as you challenge your muscles enough like that. And then of course you need to eat sufficient protein. You need complete proteins, complete amino acid chains to be able to do that. And you also need sleep. You need growth hormone, right? So yeah, lifting weights is not the only way. It's just the most consistently accessible way that I have found, because like, I mean, surfers are obviously most people listening to this are probably not surfers. And yeah, they're a
Not
rare
me.
group because a lot of them do really surf like every day, right? So yeah, there's some people like that, maybe rock climbers. They're probably building some. If you're doing that consistently, cool, but let's say like, I don't know, you play tennis. That's awesome. That wonderful. You're getting sunshine, you're playing tennis. But like, one, how consistently you're doing that, and two, like, it's not, yeah, you'll get a little bit of muscle, I guess, from hitting the thing, some resistance, but not a lot, right? Like, and if it's inconsistent, it's like, well, I hike sometimes. Like, okay, well, maybe if it's a really hard hike, you might build a teeny bit of muscle in your legs or something, but like, how consistent is it? And it's, to me, it's much more efficient to go in a gym and just like get it done quickly. Like I usually don't actually lift weights for more than like 30, maybe 40 minutes, and it's just so efficient. It's so accessible. And I think it's fun. You get your music going. So I don't know if I'm answering your question totally.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And actually brings up another question because this is something just like selfishly for myself. So I'm assuming other people might have this question as well around building muscle. Like what's better, shorter amounts of time, like every day, or like once a week, a longer session, right? Like in terms of actually building that muscle. You've talked a lot about consistency, and I'm thinking of everybody's different lifestyle. And even for myself, like daily is just not realistic for me. But I'm just curious about like, is it the duration of time? Or do you recommend like longer sessions, less frequently throughout the week?
Okay, it's a
Or
great
does it
question.
matter?
Okay, so let's it depends, right? So let's look at it this way. Like if you are lifting weights 1 day a week, you are going to get 1 day a week lifting results. Okay?
Yeah.
So just like let's say you want to learn how to play the piano and you are going to 1 day a week practice piano. You're going to get that level of results.
Right.
Now, let's say you decide you're going to practice piano 4 days a week. You're going to get 4 day a week level of results. And the same with weightlifting. Now, because the body needs recovery time, if you're just starting, no, I don't have my newbie clients train every day. I give them a walking recovery day in between. And then we slowly work up to, yeah, if you want like mega results, I slowly work up to they're doing 5 days a week. And then I always have one yoga day in all of my clients. So, but 5 days a week for my more advanced clients who are they're going after it. They hired me for a reason, right? Like they are going after it right now. They want results. So for them, that's 4 lifting days, one high intensity interval circuit that's short in duration. It's usually going to be 20, 25 minutes max, right? And so you're like going really intense and then you're resting, going really intense, resting, doing a circuit style. And they're super fun. And then they have a yoga day and then a completely off day. So that would be like advanced. So, sometimes people will come to me and they're like, hey, I only have 20 minutes to work out. So I need you to make me 20 minutes. I'm like, okay, we can do that. And of course, when I think, okay, if they only have 20 minutes, it's going to have to be intense. You better dial this in. So what we lack in duration, we make up for in intensity. And that also depends on where you're at. I don't want to wreck somebody, if they have thyroid conditions or they're already inflamed, like there's a lot of factors I have to take in. But to generally say, like, if you haven't been lifting weights at all, just one is you're going to likely need more recovery days. Two, don't go kill yourself in there to the point that you're sore for 4 days, and that decreases motivation. It doesn't need to be like that. We want small stimulus, small adaptations, right? So get this. I always say, get the stimulus and get out. Right. We want to make a stimulus that was hard enough that your body is like, I'm going to have to change some things if she's going to be doing stuff like that. Right. So if you're just kind of half, knowing it, then like it's, you're like, just, it wasn't even hard. You just did 15 reps of a bicep curl. Like you got to think like I'm trying to create a stimulus that my body's going to have to say, oh my gosh, we got to adapt to this. Right.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I'll say on this in terms of like, frequency, there's lots of training variables, and right now we're talking about frequency and volume. So frequency is how frequently you train. Volume is like how much overall, or, how much load is there? Like, um, if you are at a point where you can do this, I personally aim to go to the gym daily. I know that's not for everyone, and I'm really far down this road, but I don't have like specific fitness goals, but I just am sharing this in terms of the ease that this has brought to my life. Like intuitively, if I can tell my body needs some recovery, I just walk that day. But if I have energy, I kind of have this little flow that I do. And then, yeah, if I want to go for a hike or something on a Saturday or Sunday, or go to the beach or do something, no worries. But generally speaking, I have like time in my morning routine that is dedicated to movement. And it's also kind of integrated into my workday personally. Like when I walk on that treadmill, that's when I take care of a bunch of stuff on my phone, because I'm like taking Steve Jobs, walking meetings kind of principle. It boosts up my dopamine and stuff. So I just get it done so quickly. I'm listening to music, I'm having fun, and I'm walking, my blood flow is going. So I find that like, that's not going to be for everybody, but I personally feel like it would be harder for me to stay consistent if I was like, I'm only going to exercise on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So all the other days I have this other flow I do in the mornings. I feel like that would eventually, for me personally, lead into now on Monday, maybe not, I'll do it tomorrow, or maybe Wednesday, nah, because it's inconsistent in my flow of my day. I've gotten to the point where it would feel really weird not to move after I do my meditation, personal growth work, all that stuff. Like I'd be like, okay, I guess, and I can do that. I'm not like, addicted to it or anything like that. It's just, I I like that flow for my life. So just kind of sharing all those different facets.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And what I really hear in that is there's no cut and dry, right? This is really like
No.
what works for your lifestyle, what depends
Yeah.
on your goals, right? And we
Yeah.
all have different goals in terms of building muscle or
Right.
managing blood sugar or doing competition, right? I mean, there's so many different reasons to get
Right. Or
into
maybe
that.
that's
So,
yoga for you or walking, like
right.
whatever, do what you want,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I will say like giving weightlifting a chance for women is like, I just
Yeah.
listed all those benefits. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And we didn't even talk, I mean, much too, and we don't need to get into this, but just this reminder for everybody, right, in how important muscle mass and muscle is for your aging body. We have
Hmm.
massive prevalence of just frail elderly people, right? And
Hmm.
I don't want to be frail. I want to be 80 and hiking, right? And 90 and
Hmm.
hiking. And if we want those goals in the future for ourselves and we want our bodies to continue to support us in living the lifestyle we want, yes, we need to eat healthy and get a hold of what's going on with our relationship with sugar, but this building muscle is a really important part of that, and flexibility, of course. I mean, all of it, all the main types of fitness are really important, but
Hmm.
yeah, this is an area that often gets overlooked. I know with my clients, this is a big area of struggle. So I love that we're having this conversation. I know they're going to get a lot out of this podcast. I want to ask you one more question because I know we're kind of getting to time here, but you mentioned earlier, and I think this is just really something wonderful that I would love to pick your brain on. You mentioned earlier, like this morning, that you fasted and then you exercised. What are your
Hmm.
thoughts on, because I know there's a lot of information out there that you shouldn't do
Hmm.
weightlifting fasted,
Hmm.
or like what are the pieces around that in terms of, is it safe to fast, and how long can you be fasted to actually work the muscles, and then how important is it, if at all, to have a meal after, or to have some refueling after?
Yeah, this is going to vary greatly per person and what their needs are.
Yeah.
I, as some context for this, one is like, I did keto for a year and then I shifted into intermittent fasting. So like I am very quote unquote fat adapted. I've been
Yeah.
doing that for a long time. So like my body can run really well without incoming food. Like I've really trained that in. Now for me, part that neurotyping certification that you mentioned, there's these different, it's basically like what your neurotransmitter balance typically kind of is to sum that up really plainly. And some people are dopamine dominant, which really just means they're sensitive to dopamine. Some people are adrenaline dominant, and some people are I hate to say it, but like glutamate dominant. And so for me, as an adrenaline dominant person, which just kind of goes into some genetic stuff that I won't get into with like slow COMT and all this kind of stuff. Um, I perform athletically extremely well fasted because when I convert, your dopamine will convert into adrenaline. When I get into that state, I am like a freaking machine, unstoppable machine. Now, I do watch all of my blood work and stuff because obviously, like anybody who's kind of educated on this is like, oh, you start to worry about the adrenals. I'm 41. So I think about that too. I don't know if this flow will always work for me, but so far, so good. I'm watching over my body that way. But I just, when I eat before a workout, it kills it for me. Like my athletic performance goes way down. And I think part of it is just that that's going to, especially if there's carbs involved, that's going to blunt so much of your conversion of dopamine into adrenaline. So I really enjoy it. It works great for me. But like a lot of my clients are dopamine dominant, we'll say. People, and those type of people hire coaches a lot. Those type of people do not, because they need to preserve their dopamine, like that. They're strong, they're neurologically dominant, right? And so when you eat a little bit of protein and carbs before your workout, you won't convert so much of your dopamine into adrenaline, and that makes them feel better because they feel stronger, right? These are small amounts, but it makes a huge difference. So the way I like to sum this up simply is, if you train, you try it out yourself. Like if you feel better if you eat before your lifting session, do that. If you know you feel better training fasted, do that. I go the route of, I try to get in protein and carbs actually after training. Like, so I'm like making those sponges really ready, and then I eat after, and I still have muscle, and it's working well for me. If you're really, really going after muscle growth, I would say you want at least protein, at least complete proteins. And if you can handle carbs right now in your journey, I would also, recommend those after sometime around your workout window, either before. Some people actually do carb powders during, that's a whole nother story, or after. But peri workout window, having some protein and carbs, if you're really, or at least complete proteins, if you're really going after muscle growth, is wise, right?
Yeah.
So having them in your system so your body's ready to use that protein to rebuild.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super helpful. And I appreciate there is no black or white answer to that. Right. And I love that message that you shared to really listen to what feels best to you.
Yeah.
And that might change as well. Like I'm similar to you. I love getting up in the morning, fasted, and doing my workouts, and then eating after. And that just feels good to me because eating before makes me feel heavy, and it just similar to you. So I think it's playing around, right? And that's what a lot of people just want. That tell me exactly what to do, and you have to try everything on and see what actually feels good in your body and what helps you feel best. And I love that you're on top of it, really paying attention to, like you said, your blood results and, testing and making sure that what you're doing is still working and not causing harm. And it is constant, this checking in process, right? As we age and as things in our life change. So I think that's an important message as well. And it's not just a set it and forget it. And what works now will work in 10 years. It might not, right? Yeah. This has been incredible. Tara, I can't believe how quickly time flies. And I want to ask you so many more things. We'll definitely have to have you back on the show. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. Is there anything left unsaid? Is there anything that you feel really called to share that you maybe didn't get to cover today?
Thanks, Sandy. And thanks for having me on. And thanks everybody who's listening. I guess my last thing is I'll play off what you just said there. There is so much dogma in the health industry, and I am frankly exhausted of having clients come to me and they're like, well, so-and-so says this is bad and this is good and this is bad and this is good and this is bad. The more you do what Danny just said and you experiment on yourself, the more immune you will become to all of that. Don't let anybody disempower you from something that is really working well for you. You've really experimented with it. You've questioned it. You've tried on other things and you're like, no, I just know that when I'm keto, I feel better. I just know when I eat healthy carbs, I feel better. You've done labs, you've dove in, dive into yourself and find that out for yourself so that you become immune to all of these dogmatic beliefs. Because quite frankly, there are a lot of voices out there that just want to be right. And they're dealing with their own wounded stuff. And, Danny's definitely not one of those people. You're coming from in such a place of service. I'm so appreciated. But there are a lot of voices out there like that. And they don't mean to. That's just where they're at in their journey, is this is the right way and that's wrong. And don't fall for that. Really, examine it, test it out on yourself. And the more you know yourself, the more connected you are to yourself, both through your own intuition and yes, labs. So you can make sure you're not kidding yourself. You just become immune to all of that. And you will be your own best guru. You will be your own best guide, your own best personal trainer, your own best nutrition coach, mindset coach, all of it. Learn from others, take it in, but then do your own process so you can just know. And it is so freeing. So just encourage everybody to do that.
What a powerful message. Thank you for sharing that, Tara. That is so powerful. So I think the question on everybody's mind now is, where can they find more about you? Do you work virtually with clients? I know not everybody's on the big island of Hawaii.
Yeah.
So if you could share a little bit about where people can connect with you and how you work with your clients.
Thanks. Yeah, I only work virtually. So my clients are all over the whole mundo, the whole world. And so if you want to learn everything is on my website. It's just taragarrison.com. It's TARA. I've got my retreats, my app, my coaching programs, my podcasts, all of it is on there. And then in terms of social media platforms, I'm most active on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And it's just Coach Tara Garrison is my handle on all of those.
Amazing. I will, of course, make sure to link all those in the show notes below. So you can go grab those, go connect with Tara. And thank you so much for being here with us today. I've learned a lot. I'm feeling re-inspired. I do know this is an area I need to work on. So I'm going to commit to you and everybody listening right now. I'm going to do some more muscle work this year. And get started amping up that journey and taking it more seriously, because I have not been. calling myself out right here live with all you.
Let me know if you need any help.
Yeah, I will. I think I'm going to reach out, Tara. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, we all need that for sure. So, and thank you everybody listening. I hope that you got a lot out of this. Looking forward to seeing you all on the next episode. See you then. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. If you're loving what we talked about today, please remember to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone you love. And if you're ready to dive deeper into discovering your root causes and patterns that are keeping you hooked on sugar, be sure to check out our brand new free workshop series that will help you kick emotional eating for good. Find the link to download this free